The story begins with a boy named Hibiki sprinting through a deserted valley, fighting for his life while a horned rabbit tears after him. He has absolutely no clue how he wound up in this mess or what is even hunting him, so the whole situation hits him like it came out of nowhere. He asks himself what the hell that thing even is, and right then a gentle female voice answers him, calmly identifying the creature as a level 1 horned rabbit. He has no idea where the voice is coming from, but he begs it not to disappear because he is honestly terrified. The rabbit then lunges at him, but he barely manages to slip aside at the last second and ends up crashing down on top of it, crushing the life out of it in the process. At the same time, deep within the woods, an elf girl moves quietly between the trees when a mysterious male voice begins guiding her, instructing her to head east because something incredibly valuable is waiting there for her. Back in the valley, Hibiki feels a wave of relief after surviving the horned rabbit, yet he still has no clue where he is or what that strange voice actually was. To make matters worse, he checks his phone and sees there is zero signal, wiping out any chance of calling for help. Trying to keep himself from freaking out, he convinces himself the voice was not real and that he must have imagined it. Hunger soon creeps in and he briefly considers eating the horned rabbit, but quickly shuts that idea down since he has no way of knowing if it is even edible. The voice suddenly chimes in again, analyzing the corpse and informing Hibiki that horned rabbit is actually a rank delicacy that tastes great in stews. Hearing that, he decides he might as well carry it along for now, even if the thought still makes his stomach turn a bit. He then starts paying closer attention to the mysterious voice and realizes it only seems to respond when he asks something directly, so he experiments by questioning random objects like his backpack. The voice replies that it is a bag crafted from materials that do not exist in this world. He keeps testing it with other items, and every single time, the voice delivers a precise and detailed explanation. Putting that together, Hibiki wonders if the voice can evaluate him too, so he asks about himself, and suddenly a translucent screen pops up in front of him displaying all his stats. As he scans through it, everything like his name and age checks out, but what really throws him off is the job listed as Appraiser Provisional, which makes absolutely no sense, since he was just living the ordinary life of a high school student until now. He then asks the voice who she actually is, and she responds that she is his status support, though she cannot reveal anything considered personal information. Hibiki thinks that is seriously unfair, but what does lift his mood a little is seeing the massive list of skills available for him to learn. The expert skill catches his eye, so he tries activating it immediately, but nothing happens. Figuring he might as well start with something simple, he decides to begin the tutorial, only for the voice to inform him that the tutorial has already been running this whole time. Hibiki doesn't understand what she's getting at, so he drops it and decides to test out the world map skill, which immediately projects a glowing hologram right in front of him. He studies it carefully and soon realizes it is not a true map at all. It is only outlining the route he has already traveled. That is when it finally clicks that he has been wandering in circles this entire time, so once he figures that out, he uses it properly to steer himself and continues forward. By the time the sun begins to set, he notices a road stretching below him, but he gets a bit too fired up and stumbles, crashing face first onto the stone pavement. As he pushes himself up, the voice calmly declares that he has just unlocked the title of Castaway in Another World. Hibiki is confused for a second, but that thought is quickly shoved aside. A massive monster suddenly looms over him, and he is convinced this is the end, but out of nowhere a glowing magic arrow flies in and drops the creature on the spot. He turns in disbelief and sees that it came from an elf girl standing on a nearby rock. Just before he approaches her, the voice activates his speech function so he can both speak and understand the language of this world. After thanking her for saving his life, she introduces herself as Emilia. Hibiki notices her pointed ears right away and assumes she is dressed like an elf, so he tells her he likes her cosplay, but Emilia clearly has no clue what he means. She then asks why he was wandering around the maze-eater grassland, and Hibiki awkwardly explains that he kind of just showed up there out of thin air, which leaves her completely stunned. The voice proceeds to perform a full appraisal on Emilia, and Hibiki is stunned to discover she is genuinely an elf. As he scans through her stats, he is even more shocked to learn that she is actually 56 years old. Emilia goes on to explain that the maze-eater grassland is not a normal field at all, but a monster that disguises itself as one. It never attacks outright, but instead waits patiently for its victims to exhaust themselves while wandering aimlessly before swallowing them whole, and hearing that makes Hibiki realize how dangerously close he was to becoming its meal. Emilia suddenly wraps Hibiki in a hug and tells him he did surprisingly well for such a young boy. She says that because she assumes he is around 10 years old, but when he corrects her and says he is 16, she quickly pulls back and admits she never expected someone his age to be stuck in such a small frame. Soon after, night settles in and they set up camp where Hibiki learns that in this world, you are officially considered an adult once you turn 15. After they finish cooking and eating a horned rabbit, Hibiki asks Emilia where they actually are. She instantly spits her tea straight into his face at such a ridiculous question. Flustered, she wipes him off while apologizing and explains that they are in the kingdom of Habrastia. Hibiki tells her that means nothing to him since he is from Japan, but she has never even heard of it, which only solidifies his belief that he truly has been transported to another world. Sensing that he must feel isolated so far from home, Amelia gently tells him she will escort him to the city tomorrow, and Hibiki thanks her sincerely. And while Hibiki sleeps, Amelia studies him quietly and starts to believe he must be the precious treasure the spirit mentioned to her. Not long after that realization, she slowly slips into sleep herself. Hibiki, meanwhile, falls into a dream about his old life and revisits a gentle memory with his three closest friends, Amane, Kyuko, and Taiki, hanging out at the diner where Amane works. They meant the world to him, even if they never passed up the chance to tease him about being way too short for a 16-year-old. Then the dream shifts to the moment everything changed. It was the final day of school right before summer vacation, and just as he was about to step into a classroom, a blinding burst of light swallowed him, and the next instant, he found himself in this world. He then jolts awake from the dream and grabs his phone, wondering how worried his friends must be by now. When he lifts his gaze to the sky, he notices strange, glowing green shapes drifting overhead. The voice identifies them and explains that they are part of a special protective barrier Amelia created to guard the area. Hibiki takes a breath and accepts the truth that magic really does exist here, which means he truly has been transported to another world. Trying to make sense of his own situation, he asks the voice what it means to be an Appraiser provisional. The voice responds that it is a role granted to him by a deity, ranked at rarity B. It grants him the appraisal skill, allowing him to analyze and reveal the abilities and attributes of any target. Yet it offers no combat techniques at all, which is why it falls under a non-combat class. Hibiki is still trying to process everything, so he gives up on overthinking it and goes back to sleep. When morning comes, Amelia wakes first and reflects on how she rescued Hibiki the day before and ended up spending the night outside beside him. Soon after, Hibiki stirs awake as well, and together they set out toward Lowell, the closest town. As they travel through the forest, Amelia tells him it will take roughly a day and a half to get there. She also warns him that monsters roam the area, though she assures him he has nothing to fear because she will protect him. She is genuinely surprised that Hibiki could even detect them, and he explains that it is all because of his world map skill. Amelia is shocked when she learns he possesses the world map skill, since it holds a AAA rarity ranking, but when he casually adds that he is an Appraiser provisional, her reaction is far less impressed, and she almost treats it like a punchline. Hibiki honestly cannot figure out why the world map skill is considered such a huge advantage, since in his eyes it only tracks where he has already traveled and alerts him to nearby monsters, and Amelia can hardly believe he fails to grasp just how invaluable that ability is when it comes to surviving in a place like this. Hibiki then brings up his world map and asks whether anything dangerous is nearby, and it identifies a crystal-horned rabbit within the vicinity. Amelia's eyes light up at the news, explaining that crystal-horned rabbits are incredibly rare and can sell for as much as 200 gold coins. Without hesitation, she grabs Hibiki and urges him to guide her directly to it. Keeping their distance, they follow the rabbit's trail while Amelia uses her magic to conceal their presence, masking both their scent and the sound of their movements. Hibiki is thoroughly impressed and praises Amelia for her incredible abilities, but she quickly returns the compliment, insisting that he is the truly remarkable one, thanks to his world map skill. She explains that any adventurer party would be fortunate to have him, and since appraisal is a non-combat profession, he could safely remain in the rear while supporting the frontline fighters. Though Amelia is eager to form a party with Hibiki, she does not want to seem overly desperate, so she decides to demonstrate her talents and let him make the first move. She raises her bow to aim, but Hibiki notices she has no arrow. Smiling, she explains that as a spirit archer, she can create arrows from wind itself. She then forms a spirit arrow and releases it toward the rabbit, but the creature narrowly evades the shot at the last instant, leaving her momentarily dumbfounded. Realizing that pursuing it now would be futile due to its high-speed escapability, Amelia prepares to abandon the chase. However, when Hibiki learns that the rabbit cannot activate its skills while attacking, an idea strikes him. If he can lure the rabbit into charging at him, Amelia would have the perfect opportunity to strike. She hesitates, doubting such a simple plan could succeed, but Hibiki reassures her, explaining that his appraisal revealed the creature to be fairly dumb as a rock. As the rabbit emerges into the open, a stone wall suddenly rises before it, startling the creature. Moments later, it spots Hibiki lying atop a rock and immediately takes the bait, and just as it lunges forward, Amelia releases her shot with flawless precision, bringing the rabbit down instantly. She is genuinely surprised the strategy works so perfectly, noting that the stone walls force the rabbit into a single path, leaving it no choice but to charge directly at Hibiki. Ironically, the creature's misjudgment of him as harmless sealed its fate. Shortly afterward, the mysterious voice informs Hibiki that his skills have leveled up, leaving him puzzled since Amelia delivered a final blow. She clarifies that he actively contributed by continuously using his appraisal skill and placing himself in danger as bait, earning the level up through his vital role in the hunt. Elsewhere, the deity responsible for bringing Hibiki into this world observes his progress with satisfaction. Still, the deity reminds himself that this is merely the tutorial phase, and Hibiki's journey has only just begun. Meanwhile, at the Adventurers Guild, we see a girl named Ivel has just completed her registration. The receptionist directs her toward the job board, but Evil calmly explains that she already has her first mission prepared, and she is searching for something truly extraordinary. This was the end of episode 1. Subscribe to not miss the next episode. After some time, Hibiki and Emalia make it to Lowell City. Emalia quickly throws a cloak over him because his outfit sticks out way too much. Their plan is simple: sell the rabbit's corn and use the money to get Hibiki proper clothes. They'd expect at least 200 gold coins, which might even leave enough for weapons and armor. Hibiki then casually wonders how much a single gold coin is even worth, which makes Emalia look at him like he is some kind of alien again, so he turns to his status support voice for answers, and she calmly explains the exchange rate. 1 gold coin equals about 10,000 yen. That is a ridiculous amount of money, and suddenly Emalia's excitement makes perfect sense to him. Out of nowhere, Emalia bluntly tells her new partner to stop sounding like a clueless, wide-eyed idiot with zero street smarts. She insists she's only saying it because there are plenty of people out there who would happily scam someone like him. She does not sugarcoat it at all, and the delivery is harsh enough that Hibiki quietly decides she probably does not have many friends. When they arrive at the Adventurers Guild, a few adventurers stare and question why Emalia teamed up with a kid. She calmly explains that he might look young, but he is actually an adult. A party called Silver Banner steps in and tells them to ignore the usual loudmouths since they always act like morons anyway, and they head out after wishing her luck. Emalia then approaches the receptionist Jewel and says she has an item to sell. They are escorted to a separate room, where Hibiki immediately gets distracted by how insanely shredded the man is. The guy catches the way Hibiki is staring and flexes on purpose. He proudly declares that his physique is the result of pure dedication and relentless effort. His name is Balls Deliard, and he happens to be the guildmaster. Hibiki instantly idolizes him, while the girls look completely confused. Hibiki then admits that no matter how hard he trains, he never gets results like that, so Balls advises him to focus on building his latissimus dorsi first. The girls quickly lose patience listening to them geek out over workout routines and shut the whole conversation down. When Emalia reveals the horn, Balls is stunned and immediately offers 400 gold coins for it. That is double what Emalia expected, so Hibiki assumes she will gladly accept. Instead, he nearly falls over when she snaps back and tells Balls not to insult her intelligence. She refuses outright and says she will not part with it for less than 800 gold coins. They go back and forth for a while, but Emalia barely moves from her demand. She even reminds him she could just take it to the capital's Adventurers Guild and sell it there, forcing Balls to finally raise his offer to 700 gold coins. Emalia beams at the final amount, and Jewel angrily mentions that it will be deducted straight from Balls' salary. Emalia is practically glowing with pride, convinced this win will push Hibiki to officially form a party with her. Then, after an unfortunate wardrobe mishap on her part, the men are promptly thrown out. Once he is by himself, the support voice informs Hibiki that his tutorial skill has now met the requirements to level up. The tutorial skill is something granted to people with a low survival rate. It allows them to receive assistance from a deity, helping them gain the knowledge and abilities needed to stay alive in this world. Hibiki suddenly hears a man's voice, but he brushes it off, assuming he must have imagined it. He concludes that this skill exists to protect him, and he realizes that making it this far was probably thanks to the deity's help. The male voice then tells him to keep revering him, since that motivates him to put in more effort. This time, Hibiki is certain he actually heard it, and the voice openly states that he is the deity supporting him. He explains that he is speaking directly to Hibiki, but he cannot do so whenever he wants. He promises to support him as much as possible, though staying alive and taking care of himself ultimately depends on Hibiki. Just as Hibiki starts forming a dozen questions in his mind, the deity disappears. Right after that, the support voice announces that with the tutorial skill leveling up, the guide's direct support will now come to an end. At that moment, Emalia returns and is informed that she has been assigned a designated quest. The letter clearly troubles her, and she apologizes to Hibiki. She has to leave the city right away, since there is no way she can turn down a request from her hometown. She cannot bring him along either, which means this is where their paths split. Hibiki feels let down and quietly wonders if Emalia was the guide the voice mentioned. Somewhere else, the girl named Ivel continues searching for that special something. She is struggling to locate it, but then an idea begins to form. Then, as Emalia prepares to depart, Hibiki reassures her that he will manage on his own. She has already done more than enough for him, and he refuses to drag her down. He tells her that he plans to try becoming an adventurer. You notice there are quests available even for non-combat roles, and that gave him hope. Emalia is confident they will meet again, and she tells him to hold on to her cloak until then. Hibiki jokes that she might need it if she runs into another wardrobe accident, and she immediately bolts off in embarrassment. After they part ways, Emalia unexpectedly runs into Ivel. Emalia explains that she is in a rush because she has to head back home on short notice. Ivel instantly understands that she means the elf homeland, and she reveals that she is traveling in that direction as well. After Emalia departed, Hibiki practically lived in his bed, drifting in and out of sleep most of the day. His phone had completely run out of power, and he still had zero clue how to return to his original world. The deity who once spoke to him had stayed silent ever since that single encounter, and Hibiki understood that revealing his secret to anyone was out of the question. He refused to risk drawing attention to himself, so he made up his mind to keep quiet about where he truly came from. Before heading out for dinner, he reflects on the fact that the only thing keeping him afloat is the gold earned from selling the horn. That money will not last forever, which means he needs to start looking for a job soon. He starts wondering what he is actually capable of, so he checks his stats. Unsure of how strong they truly are, he asks about them, and the support voice advises him not to attempt solo combat. He then is thrilled to see he earned a new title, but the excitement fades quickly. The title is Older Lady Killer, and he has absolutely no idea what that is supposed to mean. On top of that, he has gained 2 new skills: Contract and Medical Book. The voice explains that he can absorb the contents of the medical book by reading through it, but if he intends to perform advanced medical treatments, she strongly suggests going through every single page. She warns him that once he starts, he will not be able to stop halfway, but Hibiki brushes it off. He figures it could come in handy, so he decides to read the entire thing. The voice sighs before initiating the process. Hibiki wonders how long it will take him to read all of it, but it is nothing like he imagined. Instead of casually flipping through pages, the full contents are forcefully crammed into his brain at once, and he lets out a scream of pure agony. Meanwhile, a maid named Stelia tracks down Emalia. Emalia warmly greets her loyal attendant, who has arrived to escort her back. She introduces Ivel, and Ivel immediately assumes they have formed a party together. A few days later, the support voice announces that the study of the medical book has finally been completed. Completely drained, Hibiki reminds himself that he still needs to go shopping. He buys some new armor and thinks about how brutal that medical book experience really was. The voice explains that each skill comes with its own unique method of acquisition. Hibiki thanks status support San, but he quickly grows tired of saying such a long name. He wonders aloud if he could just call her Sapo-chan instead. She falls silent for a moment, and it becomes obvious she actually likes it when she responds by saying that Sapo-chan accepts the proposal. After that, the Silver Banner party storms into the Adventurers Guild in complete chaos. Their captain is barely hanging on because he and a Silver Ruby Wolf ended up killing each other at the exact same moment. Blood keeps pouring out of him without stopping, and his teammates are praying the Guildmaster can somehow pull off a miracle. But luck is not on their side, and they are informed that Balls is currently away from town. They explain in panic that they already used every healing spell they knew, yet nothing worked. Hibiki notices just how severe the blood loss is, and he starts wondering if the medical book ability might actually save him. Sapo suddenly cuts in and states that there is still a possibility. Hibiki asks the group if they are willing to let him try, and they immediately question whether he is even a healer. He admits that he is actually an appraiser, which makes them even more doubtful that he can do anything useful. However, he clarifies that he also possesses a medical skill, so they reluctantly agree to take the risk. Hibiki then activates the ability, and Sapo triggers the medical book function known as examination. Through this, he discovers that the man has dive poison circulating in his body. It is a toxin derived from poisonous herbs, and it makes it nearly impossible to halt the bleeding. The man has roughly 5 minutes remaining, so Hibiki desperately thinks about how to treat him. Sapo explains that full restoration will be required, including regenerating the arm and leg he lost. She advises using Hypercure and Perfect Heal, but these are advanced tier abilities that demand 650 magic power, and the problem is that Hibiki only has 56 MP. Everyone grows anxious, so Hibiki tells them that the bleeding cannot be stopped because of the toxin. The poison must be eliminated first, and then his missing limbs must be restored. Hibiki frantically asks if anyone present can cast Hypercure or Perfect Heal, but none of them can. Now there are only 4 minutes left, and he struggles to think of any possible solution. At that moment, Sapo suggests using a technical ability called Contract. If he asks others to temporarily funnel their MP into him, Hibiki will be able to carry out the treatment using the pooled magic power. A simple spoken agreement will suffice, and it will grant him access to those advanced spells. Hibiki quickly grasps the idea and asks everyone to form a contract with him. He explains that they only need to lend him a portion of their magic power, and with it, he can save their leader Jade. No one there has ever encountered something like this before, but there is no room for questions. They are frantic to save their companion, so they agree to establish the contract, and together they manage to funnel some magic power into Hibiki, yet they're still 174 short. Jewel then steps forward, wanting to contribute, and volunteers to join the contract as well. Savo clarifies that it can be done, and Hibiki simply needs to announce that additional members are being included. Hibiki declares that he will expand the contract to include another party, which allows Jewel to take part. She transfers another 273 magic power, and at last Hibiki has enough to activate Hypercure. Hypercure removes the poison, and immediately after, Hibiki casts Perfect Heal. A radiant glow bursts from Jade's body as Hibiki pushes far beyond his limits to restore him. When the light fades, Sapo announces that the leader's missing limbs have fully regenerated. The complete restoration is successful, and everyone lets out a breath of relief. Hibiki, however, is utterly drained from overexerting himself, and he drops to the floor unconscious. While he is out, Hibiki dreams of a time when one of his friends lectured him. She had been angry because he always acted first and thought later. She reminded him about the time he jumped into the water to rescue a drowning dog and the time he climbed up to save a cat stranded on a rooftop. She warned him that someone would not always be there to pull him out of danger, and that he needed to be more cautious. He is suddenly brought back to reality as Sapo informs him that his job level has risen from level 2 to level 5. His technical ability contract has also advanced from level 1 to level 2. Hibiki reassures Jewel that he is feeling fine now and apologizes for causing trouble. Jewel quickly denies that he was any trouble at all, reminding him that he saved her younger brother Jade and he is deeply thankful as well. Hibiki refuses to claim all the credit, emphasizing that he could not have succeeded without everyone sharing their strength with him. Jewel insists that it only worked because of him and tells him to accept their appreciation. She then discloses that she has imposed strict silence on the incident so that rumors will not spread. Hibiki feels relieved, yet he is curious about her reasoning. Jewel explains that possessing the ability to use Hyper Cure and Perfect Heal is almost unheard of. If word spreads, it is certain that someone will try to take advantage of him for profit. To prevent that, Jewel suggests he consider joining an adventurer party. He would be far safer surrounded by reliable fighters. Hibiki is unsure whether he will even remain in the city after this, and he does not want to impose on anyone. Still, he understands that as someone who cannot fight, having protection might be wise. Joel mentions there is another option as well, which would be to employ a personal bodyguard. Elsewhere inside a prison cell, a young girl clings tightly to a fearsome beast. The creature reassures her that she should not be afraid, promising that it will rip apart anyone who dares to harm her. This was the end of episode 2. Subscribe to not miss the next episode.